I feel like I should say dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Y'all know that. Y'all know that. You know that sound. It's a familiar intro. It's a familiar theme song for Shark Tank. Hope y'all are having a great Super Bowl Sunday. If you're not into Super Bowl, because I'm not, I'm into the food and the friendship. But I wanted to just hop on today. I finally got from under a lot of the Shark Tank effect. Woo! Man, nobody can tell you what it's going to be like to be on Shark Tank or what your aftermath is going to be like. And let me tell you, regardless of what happens with your business, whether you get a deal or you don't get a deal, it is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So that tomorrow, I think it will be 30 days. It will be a month since my appearance on Shark Tank January 8th, Friday, January 8th, which was phenomenal, amazing. And I just wanted to hop on because I saw that Shark Tank released their season 13, lucky season 13 auditions. So I hope those of you who are listening to me, because I'm not looking at the phone right now, I'm just talking, standing by a window. But I hope those of you who are listening are considering auditioning for Shark Tank because it really, really was a phenomenal experience. So what we're going to do in our quick time together today is I'm going to talk a little bit about getting on Shark Tank and tell you a little bit about who I am. And then I'll answer any questions, specific questions that you might have about getting on Shark Tank or what the experience was like. So first of all, Fran Harris, my background is in consumer packaged goods, worked for Procter & Gamble for about 4 years in my late 20s and sold Crest toothpaste and Scope mouthwash, Pepto-Bismol. That's how I got started in the business world. I attended college, graduated from the University of Texas, played on the championship basketball team there, pursued professional basketball, and then started my own business training and consulting company, which is still in existence to today. So my background is in business, sales, sports marketing, but I've always wanted to, have my own company. And when I left P&G, I left P&G probably around the time I started in television with ESPN and some of the other networks calling men's and women's basketball games. Ultimately, that career matriculated into softball and men's hoops and other things, and I've been very fortunate to be on television for over 25 years. I've gone into producing my own documentaries, right now producing a film and some television shows, and have been really fortunate to be able to do pretty much whatever I wanted to do in whatever genre that I decided to go in. But I've known since my P&G days that I wanted to start a company that had the potential to have millions, if not billions, of customers. So the idea for what I pitched on Shark Tank, which was my sports drink, my beverage company, really came out of a need from noticing what was missing in the marketplace. And I was actually running let's keep it real. I was walking a 5K a few years ago. And you know how when you finish, or if you've ever done a walk, you've seen people after they finish the walk, somebody hands them maybe like a drink in a cup, or they hand them a drink from the sponsor, the sports drink sponsor for the event. And so someone handed me a bottle of one of the big threes. I won't call their names, but you guys know who the big threes are. They're Gatorade, Powerade, and Body Armor. They handed me one of those, and I turned it around, and I was like, wait a minute. I've been drinking this for God knows how long. I've been drinking this stuff. Never really paid a whole lot of attention to what was in the bottle, right? Because when you're an athlete, typically your body's amazing and you really don't think a whole lot about the impact of what you're putting in it, because tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're still going to be amazing. Your body's going to be amazing. So needless to say, that was me. It was like I was conscientious, but not overly ambitious about reading labels when I was a professional athlete. So as I look at this a couple years ago, I said, there's an opportunity here. So started doing some research on healthy sports drinks, functional sports drinks, better for you sports drinks, and found out that there truly was an opportunity. And so when that hit me, I was like, okay, I've had the opportunity to audition for Shark Tank several times. Shark Tank they came to the University of Texas when I was in grad school. I've had people, because I've been in television, I hosted my own series on HGTV. I've been on tons of reality shows. I've been on Good Morning America, right? So I have a lot of contacts in the TV business. And so over the 12 years that Shark Tank was in existence, I got probably 3 or 4 calls to be on Shark Tank from producers or for friends saying, hey, I know you're always thinking of some ideas. Why don't you audition for Shark Tank? And this was really, honestly, y'all, the first time I thought this idea is strong enough. It's good enough. It's something I really am going to do. It's not something I'm just doing, pretending that I'm going to start a business. This is something I'm really going to do. So when I realized that Electra was going to be a company that I was going to pursue, I went to the Shark Tank website and filled out the audition papers, the application, and waited like everybody else. Now, here's what I have to tell you about Shark Tank. If you just jumped on the Shark Tank boat bandwagon over the last few years, Shark Tank started 13 years ago, right? 12 or 13 years ago. And they would take just about anybody, just to be honest with you. There were a lot of people who were auditioning, and they really hadn't figured out what the sweet sauce, what the special sauce was going to be for the show. They needed people who were going to be entertaining. They needed people who were going to be, good TV, and they needed people who had some kind of business. So if you'll go back and look at early shows of Shark Tank, you will see companies that you're like, how in the hell did they get on Shark Tank? As the years went by, it got better. It got harder to get on the shows. The companies were better. The production value was better. And that brings us to today. So when I decided to audition for Shark Tank, I knew that I was bringing more than just a great idea. I knew I was bringing my 20 plus years in television, all of those audition experiences I had from, America's Next Great Restaurant to game shows I've been on, right? And so that's what I want to talk to you about today, just briefly. I know some of y'all are going to watch the Super Bowl, but I did see the little announcement, and I was like, you know what? I want to help some people get on Shark Tank. Let's see if we can move the needle for some folks to get on Shark Tank. So I'm going to talk about 3 things. I think it's 3 things I'm going to talk about before I open up for questions. 3 things that you need to be thinking about if you are considering auditioning for Shark Tank. All right. Number 1, the most important thing in terms of the application process is the application. Is actually the application. And so what I mean by that is that your application is your first audition. It is the first audition for Shark Tank. A lot of people approach it with, when I get on camera and when I do my video audition and when I speak to them on the phone, I'm going to really wow them with my charm and my charisma. But the reality is, if you don't get past the application stage, you will not get to talk to a producer. So that is the big $1 million tip just to start our conversation off today. The application is your first audition. All right. So when you're putting your application together, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that you are popping off the page, that you are showing producers on your written application, which you can do online or you can print it out and fill it in or whatever. You are showing them who you're going to be on TV, right? So the application, most important thing. Who are you on your application? So your personality needs to pop. Everything needs to pop from that application so that they will get a sense of who they're going to talk to on the phone. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, be what I call give great phone, okay? Give great phone. So that means if you get past the application process, which by the way, I applied for Shark Tank in 2020, and there were either close to or over, I was talking to a producer actually last week, over 100,000 applications. This is a great little sidebar. So typically you can audition for Shark Tank online, and then you can audition offline, where you go to those cities. They have their tour cities where they go and they invite people, and you go and you stand in line all day and right? That's fun. I've done that a lot for other shows. So you're going to either be applying online or offline. So last year during the pandemic, when they couldn't do city tours and auditions, there were like 100,000 people vying for about 150 to 200 spots. And just so if you haven't read this online, Shark Tank auditions, 30 to 100,000, and then they narrow it down. They actually shoot episodes with about 150, 200 people. This is all public knowledge, by the way. Okay. So what you're up against, or at least 30,000 people who want one of those 200 spots. So it is imperative that you figure out how to stand out on your application. And then, which moves us to number 2, which is I started first before I did my sidebar, giving good phone. Okay, so there's the application. You got to win the application stage. So you got to look good on paper. Then your next contact is going to be on the phone. So some of you are great on the phone and some of you are not great on the phone. So once you've sold them through your application, through your written representation of who you are, when you get that call, when you get the call from your application, you need to act like you just won the $100,000 pyramid game show, right? Because again, everything is about, it's a TV show, y'all. It's about who is this person going to be on television. So application, you win that round, then they call you and they say, hey, just want to let you know you are moving. We're interested. We want to chat with you about your business and possibly about being on Shark Tank. You need to act like you just won the $100,000 pyramid game show, Family Feud, whatever your jam is, right? You need to act like that on the phone. And maybe you really feel that way. So when I got the call, I actually was on another call when they called, but I recognized the area code for Culver City. And I have a Beverly Hills, phone number. So typically I will answer the calls. Any call that comes from New York or LA area, I will typically answer. So I was on the phone, so I couldn't answer when they called, but I knew who it was. So I listened to my messages. They said, this is, I think it was Jen from Shark Tank. Could you give me a call, please? I have an update on your application. That's pretty much how it went. So I made sure when I called her back that I was fired up. So I was like, hey, and she was like, hey. And I was like, give it to me, Jen. Like already I was who I'm going to be on television. All right. So that's number 2. Number 1, if you're just joining, we're talking about the 3 most important things for you for getting on Shark Tank. Number 1, winning the application, being great on your application, showing them who you're going to be on TV on your application. Number 2 is giving good phone, being great on the phone, because your first contact with producers is going to be on the phone more than likely. All right. And then number 3, it's a TV show, y'all. It's a TV show. So what that means is every decision about casting, I will say 90%, 95% of decisions about casting are hinging on one thing. Is this person going to give us a great episode? All right. Is this person going to help us create a great episode? It's a TV show, y'all. So a lot of times I've seen people get on Shark Tank, and I get it because it is very stressful. It is very stressful, but it is a TV show. And so you're thinking about the deal, you're thinking about what you're not going to give up, you're thinking about all this, but ultimately what they want to know is, can this be compelling television? Because television shows last because of what? You already know the answer to this. Ratings. I guarantee you, if you look at the early ratings of Shark Tank, when the sharks were kind of reserved because they were thinking they were just investors, so they were kind of boring sometimes. And then if you look at the contestants, the entrepreneurs who came on, they too were kind of boring because both sides were like, okay, I'm an investor. This is what I would do if I were having a meeting and taking a meeting with someone. And then the contestants were like, okay, this is how I would behave if I were pitching an investor. And neither one of them was really understanding that it's a TV show, y'all. Yes, those 2 things are important. The investment, the pitch is important. But ultimately, you're on television. And if we don't make this entertaining, we're not going to have a show. So I challenge you to go back and watch some early episodes of Shark Tank and look at the quality, not just the production value, but the quality of the conversations between the CEOs, the entrepreneurs, and the investors. It was boring. And there were people who thought the show was not going to make it. It's hard for us to believe that now. It's literally in my top 5 shows of all time. It's hard for us to imagine that Shark Tank would not be on television, but it almost didn't make it just because of what I just said. It's a TV show, y'all, and it has to be interesting and it has to be compelling. And so there are some things that make TV more compelling. You all know this. We've all watched television shows. If there is no conflict, then it's not compelling. If there is no drama, then it's not compelling. If there's no entertainment value, then it's not compelling. So those are the 3 things, just very basically, that you need to be thinking about as you're considering, if not for this year, in future years, about getting on Shark Tank. Will you be able to show up well on your application? Will you be able to give good phone? And 3, will you be able to help them co-create a compelling, a badass episode of television? All right, that's it. That's my open. And now I will open it up as I get a swig of water for anybody who has questions about the process. And then I'm going to go and start my non-Super Bowl, Super Bowl festivities, which I got. Who's got something? Raise your hand. Oh, we got a couple hands raised. All right, what we got? We've got Kimberly. Bringing you up. Go for it.
Are you, friend? Thank you for taking my question. That was incredible knowledge. I wanted to know what surprised you with all of your experience and exposure into the world of TV and production. What didn't you know that you learned? There's probably a few things, but if you could tell me what you found out that you didn't expect to learn from that experience.
That's a great question. I think the thing that was, you don't know, I didn't know how it would feel to actually be in the tank under those lights for, you never know how long you're going to be there because it's actually real. Like the camera never stops rolling when you're in there. So I may have been there for a little under an hour. And at some point, I thought I was going to faint. And I think just because of all of the lights and the anxiety and the pressure and all of that, just the physical space of just standing there. So you don't have a timeout. You don't go, oh, let's take a break. Let's stop down. Let's sit down. Let's have a little drink over. None of that happens. You literally are standing there the entire time. So if your session goes 2 hours, you're standing there for 2 hours. And if it goes 30 minutes, you're standing there for 30 minutes. So I didn't anticipate feeling like I was going to faint at some point because it was just hot. It was hot and the lights and everything. And so that was kind of fun. It was actually funny afterwards because I remember, I don't know who was talking. And I don't know if you're familiar with the teacher in the Charlie Brown series who at some point they say the sound is like wah, wah, wah. At some point in the tank when all of the sharks were talking, I just remember not really hearing anybody because I thought I was about to pass. I thought I was about to pass out. And, but I remember that moment of just kind of like, oh, okay, snap out of it and come back. And so that was it. That was the one thing that surprised me more than anything.
Wow. Okay. And then one more question is, what we see on Shark Tank is them talking through the numbers. And I feel sometimes very intimidated of that, especially if you don't have like a financial background. Yeah. So how would you suggest one would prepare for all of those questions that they ask around, knowing your numbers and knowing the terms and that?
Yeah, and going into it, that would be one of the things that you would prepare more heavily for. So there are some key numbers that every business has. So you need to know, and I don't know what business you might pitch, but you need to know what the key numbers are for your business. So give you an example for beverages, it's always cost of goods. How much does it cost to make this thing? And then how much are you selling it for? And then what are the margins? That's pretty basic, but those are the key numbers for my business. So you need to know the key numbers specific to your business and your category. And then you need to know numbers like, how much are you asking for? What are you going to give up for that? And what is your rationale for giving up for that? So there's a rationale for the ask. If you've ever watched Shark Tank, then they just kill people who come in there asking for crazy, who haven't figured out what their true valuation needs to be. So your valuation is a very important number. If you notice in my episode, if you saw my episode, We didn't talk about that. They couldn't have shown everything anyway, but we actually didn't talk about that because we were pre-revenue. So any discussion for my business about valuation would not have made a whole lot of sense. So it never happened, right? So that's why Kevin said, so we have no sales. And I was like, right, but don't try to do that, Kevin. Like, no, we don't have any sales, but here's why. So as long as you know your numbers from a standpoint of, listen, this is why I don't have that number is because of this, or this is why this number is that because of this, you're fine. But never go into any pitch situation trying to BS the investors, because it's what they do. And they will know when you're trying to BS them. So just be very honest about it, but also you would have plenty of time to prepare to know those key numbers as well.
Wow, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You got it, Kimberly. Thanks for stopping by. All right, anybody else got any questions?
Okay, one more question. No one
Okay.
okay. Last one. So I just started a beverage, like I'm just selling coffee online, right? And so I'm trying to think about what should I be thinking about now if I want to eventually try to get this to the point where it's a maybe $50 million company or something like that. What should I be thinking about now in the early stages? If there's anything you can give me on structure or structuring my business or positioning myself, like what should I be thinking about now?
Is this a coffee company that you created, or you're like a private label, or what's the deal?
It's a private label. So I have a drop shipper, but I've created the brand. Okay, so you create the brand, and so that's going to be, especially for beverages, that's so much a part of whether you can sell it or not, right? Because nobody knows what's behind it. They just know the customer facing brand. So I would say the first thing I would say is start conversations so that you can become kind of a thought leader in the space. Okay. So let me give you an example about that. When I was going to start Electra, one of the discussions on the table with me and my board was whether my first beverage should be water or a sports drink. And now, if you know anything about my background, it seems like it makes perfect sense for it to be sports drink and not water, for the obvious reasons. Like, I have thought leadership in this area. So it's the same thing I'm saying with you. The people who wanted me to do water, I said, guys, think about this. Like, if I come out talking about water first, there's so many water companies, first of all, and how do you have thought leadership on water? Unless it's like an electrolyte water or something like that. I go, it makes sense for the launch product to be a sports product, given my thought leadership on that area. And that's why I went that way. So the same thing with you. What you can start doing now is creating conversations around your product. Because one of the things that will happen that will be a differentiator for you is when people are making buying decisions, you've hit them with content. They've developed some loyalty to your content. They know questions about the product and about the category and the industry. And now they're not just buying your coffee, they're buying your expertise. They're buying your thought leadership on that topic. And so that's a huge thing that you can do that's not going to cost you any money, that will pay huge dividends on the back end. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Thank you, Fran.
You got it. You got it. Good luck. Any other questions? All right, you can, I will tell you, for those of you who, I do have a couple people who have questions. Okay, so if I'm also doing I have a course called Shark Tank Auditions. If you want to check that out, you can check it out at sharktankauditions.com if I get off here to go do my Super Bowl stuff. If you're interested in that, check that out. I go through basically the entire process of auditioning, not for shows like Shark Tank, but any kind of reality shows that involve kind of putting yourself out there and beating thousands of people to get on the show. So sharktankauditions.com is that. I will bring somebody to the stage. Is Leora? Hold on. There you go. Hola.
I got laid off due to COVID. I was a banquet captain forever, and then I wanted to get into real estate. I bought my first duplex, and then I got laid off a week later. And I'm just here kind of picking up the pieces and learning how to be my own plumber and my own handyman. I bought a pretty distressed property thinking that I was going to have money coming in.
Yay.
And then all of a sudden, no go. But, I've had a couple, I feel like I suffer from like that kind of entrepreneurial spirit where I'm just I have so many ideas, right? And I just have no idea how to deliver them.
Yeah.
And so I have a couple of ideas, but they're basically for kind of like apps, but I don't have any idea where to start when it comes to you basically want to, I'm guessing you want to build a business model before you build an app. I have no idea where to go. I was a banquet captain. I worked with face-to-face with people putting on giant charity events.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a social worker before. I worked with homeless youth and adults. And so that's just my face. I'm just a face-to-face person who wants to provide. I want to serve others, and I have a couple ideas for some apps that I think would be helpful to the general public, but I just kind of don't know where to start.
Okay, so ironically, and I don't know you can DM me if you want, or on LinkedIn, send me a note on LinkedIn. I just, at noon, I was in a group on a room on Clubhouse that was about app development. So, and it was really good. So if you'll DM me, I can probably find that person, and then you should join some of our conversations. So that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is you're correct. You need to make sure that there is actually a viable business there. So validate the app idea before you do anything. You know what I mean? Go find some apps that are similar to what you want to do or close enough. It doesn't have to be a direct competitor, but someone who's doing just even in the ballpark of what you want to do to get some kind of validation. That's the first thing you need to do. And then from there, you can kind of figure out what the business model can possibly be based on what other people are doing with apps similar to yours.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. So I'm going to DM you. I'll DM you right now.
Okay.
And I think that app development is really awesome. I heard that Upwork was a good one if you're on a budget, which of course I am.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to jump into some of those rooms and platforms, when it just comes to having help with app development. But yeah, I just got to figure out if this is a viable option or not. I think I could do it, but I'm so tech. I'm an idiot when it comes to tech stuff.
Yeah, well, a lot of people who start tech companies are. So that's a good news is that, you're not going to be building it. You're not going to be the developer. But if you can map out what the business model is, then you're 50% of the way there. Then you're just going to hire people to do it. And I don't know if you're having interest in pitching that on Shark Tank, but tech things are always a hot button for sharks. So if you decide to move there, that's a good idea.
Yeah, do people pitch apps?
Yeah, they do.
On Shark Tank?
Yep, they do.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Barbara seems super cool.
Barbara is very cool.
And she loves RuPaul, and I love her for that.
Okay. All right, thanks for the question.
Yeah, I'll DM you right now. Thank you
got
so
it.
much.
All right, y'all. So again, if you know some people who are interested in auditioning for Shark Tank, send them to sharktankauditions.com. Season 13 just opened up, and I did a whole quick little course on how to do it. The funny thing is, when my producers at Shark Tank found out that I had done this course, which by the way, I did it before I even got on Shark Tank. That's how much I know this world. My course actually was published before I ever got on the show. They said, well, we know it works because you got on. So I'm like, yep, we do. So if you know anybody who's thinking about it, just send them to sharktankauditions.com. Very painless process, but a lot of good stuff that you need to know to be able to get past the gatekeepers and to actually beat out the odds of, 100,000 people applying, and then you being one of the 100 to 200 that gets picked for the show. All right. I'm going to start my Super Bowl festivities. Thank y'all for stopping by. SharkTankAuditions.com if you want to get the course. Otherwise, have a great Sunday, and I will see you guys back here on Clubhouse another time. Take care.
Thanks so much, Fran. Have a great Sunday.
You got it. You too. Bye, y'all. Bye, Max.